Welcome back to the Hammersmith DIY channel. My name is Wyatt Groff, the owner of Hammersmith, and today's Learn More video we're going to be talking about our range of Titebond woodworking glues. So what you see in front of you here is a range of Titebond glues. Now Titebond is a brand that is manufactured by Franklin International, and it is a glue that is imported from the USA. So this is a glue made in the USA and that we sell here in Australia for use in the woodworking industry, well mainly the woodworking industry is certainly what we use it for. Now I think what's really important to know is why we sell this glue. And the reason we sell this glue is because we use the glue. So in our manufacturing business here in Adelaide, Australia, we glue together a number of different timbers from pine to Vic Ash, Meranti, American oak, blackbutt, spotted gum, an array of different timber species. And what we found over time was we used to use another particular glue. This is going back a number of years ago now. And we had some problems with it, and we spoke to some various people in the industry, and everyone kept on saying the same thing, Titebond. So we started using the Titebond and testing it out ourselves and seeing what it was like. And what we've found is it's an extremely good glue. So I feel like it's important to say that, because a lot of other people will sell a product but may not actually use a product. Well, this is a product we use every day in our factory to manufacture the various components we make. So for example, if you look up here, handrail components that we produce where we glue sections of timber together. I'll grab one down to show you. So you can see here, this is a two-piece lamination, and we use Titebond Supreme here to actually manufacture this particular product. So we have faith in this glue, and that's why we actually sell the glue, because we know it works. What you see here is the complete range of glues that we sell in the various different sizes we have and the different configurations. And so what I'm going to do today is work through this with you with the different glues, what they're used for. I'm not going to go too detailed because there's a lot involved, but our website hammersmith.com.au there is the best place to get all the updated information. But I will include links in the description below this video so that you can see what it is you're buying. So once we start talking about the glues, I kind of wanted to break it down initially into the general woodworking glues and then the more specialised woodworking glues. So these glues here are a little bit more specialised, so I'm going to push them to one side. And really what I want to talk about firstly is Titebond's core range of products. So what we've got here is Titebond Original, Titebond 2 Premium, and Titebond 3 Ultimate. So Original, Premium, Ultimate, or Titebond 1, 2 and 3 is probably a better way of describing it. And these are the three core glues that we sell. And it's important to note also the different sizes that these particular glues come in. So in the Titebond Original, you can see here I've got some showing here. So this particular bottle here, now all of this we talk about in milliliters, obviously, because being Australia, a metric system, but obviously because they come from the US, they're all designed in an imperial system. But in simple terms, this particular one here is 473 milliliters, which just happens to be 16 fluid ounces. The next size up is 946 milliliters, which happens to be 32 fluid ounces. Then we move up into 3.78 litres, which I think, what do they call there? That's one gallon in the US talk. And then finally, we've got one here which is just under 19 litres of this particular product, which is 5 gallons in the US measurement. So it's important to note that in the Titebond 1 and the Titebond 3, four different sizes are available. Whereas in the Titebond 2, we don't stock the big size. So Titebond 1, 4 different sizes, Titebond 3, 4 different sizes, Titebond 2, the 3 smaller sizes, just not the big one. Now, one of the things I'd say to people is, well, what size are you wanting to buy? Well, obviously, if you're just doing a small woodworking project, clearly the small size is more than suitable. But if, for example, you were more of a manufacturing company where you were going through a reasonable amount of glue, what you could look to do is buy the big drums, because obviously you're going to save some money by buying it in bulk, and then you may want to dispense that into smaller applicators like so. I mean, obviously you could buy your own glue dispensers from your local hardware store. But what you could also do is buy half a dozen of these and one of them, and then just keep on topping that particular item up. So that's important in this range. there is some different sizes available. Whereas in our specialty glues, like you see here on this side, these are only available, the sizes you see are the only ones that are actually available. So let's first talk about the difference between Titebond 1, 2 and 3. So here we have it, the 3 different glues that I want to be talking about here. I want to briefly explain what the differences are, but the technical side of things, the Titebond Original is an aliphatic resin, the Titebond Premium is a cross-linking PVA, and the Titebond Ultimate is a proprietary polymer. Now, to be honest with you, that doesn't mean a lot to me, and it probably doesn't mean a lot to you, but that's the differences in the products. So what does that really mean in terms of an actual application? What I would say is this: your general woodworking glue, Titebond Original, is more than suitable for every type of scenario. Where you would look to use Titebond 2 or Titebond 3 is where you're wanting to use something for outside application. And what we talk about is Titebond 2 is water resistant, Titebond 3 is waterproof. Now they say waterproof, water resistant, it's kind of a flip-flop sort of terminology. Titebond 3 will give you better outside application than Titebond 2 will do, but to be honest with you, if you're just using something where it's likely to get some rain on it or whatever else, Titebond 2 will be more than suitable. Really where you'd be wanting to use Titebond 3 is where you have something that is maybe going to be submerged in water for a period of time. That's where Titebond 3 would be more important. The thing with Titebond 3 though, it has a couple of other scenarios. One is, and these are good scenarios, one is it has a longer working time. So what I mean by that is you can work your pieces before you have to clamp the items together. And that can be important if you're trying to work on something that's going to take a bit of time to get together and assemble before you really wanted to clamp it. So Titebond 3 actually has a slightly longer working time before it starts setting off than what these first two are. Now we're not talking long periods of time here. What we're actually talking about is in the range of 4 to 6 minutes versus 8 to 10 minutes. So you're still talking about quite a reasonable length of time for these products. If you're trying to put something together, you want to spend 4 to 5 minutes on that particular product, that's quite a decent period of time. But this product here will still allow you to keep on working with those products before clamping, before the stuff starts going off in the sort of 8 to 10 minute mark. So that may be important to you. What you also have to remember about Titebond 3 though, it's quite a bit more expensive than the other two. So if cost is important to you and you don't need that extra clamping time, or you may have a product that is going to be used for outside but it's not going to be submerged in water, then honestly Titebond 2 will be more than suitable for what you're wanting to use. Then the other common question we get from people is the strength, the gluing strength, so to speak. There is a slight difference. Titebond 3 will produce a slightly better gluing strength, bonding strength than what this will, which is also slightly better than what the original is. But to be honest with you, the differences is fairly negligible. In the case of all three, what they actually say is the bond strength, so the physical strength of gluing some timber together. So if I was to take our piece of handrail again, that glue joint that you see there is actually stronger than the timber itself. So if we were to somehow force to break this, the timber would snap before the glue joint would snap. And that's important. That's the case in all three of these glues. Even though this glue here has produced a slightly stronger bond strength, in all three cases, they're stronger than the actual timber using to glue. So really, bond strength is kind of irrelevant from my point of view. All three are more than suitable. It really just comes down to, as I said before, the application of where you're using it. A couple of other questions we get from people. What about the shelf life of these products? 2 years is what they suggest. So providing you don't let air get into the product, so once you finish using it, make sure you reseal it back up again. Don't let air get into it. You can have a 2 year shelf life where you can take it back out again, unscrew it, and away you go and start using it. So that's also important. And then the next question we get is, what about the cleanup process? Well, like a lot of most glues, all these glues clean up in water. So once you finish the product, use some water to clean off the nozzle, whatever you're applying it to, a bit of water to clean it up and be more than suitable to do the cleanup process. And then the final question we quite often get asked from people is, well, what about the glue colour itself? If you look here at the bottles, you may see that there's some slight different colours in it. And so these glues will dry. When they dry, they will produce a slight colour in the glue. So for example, the Titebond original here is what we would define as being a yellow glue line, like it's a very pale yellow. Then the Titebond 2 we would call more of a slightly orangey tone. Once again, it's not like a bright orange. And then finally, Titebond 3 is what we'd call light brown glue line. And so that can be important. Obviously, if you were gluing up pine, you were going to then do a clear coat on something, you may want to use something more like the original because the colour of the original is going to be closer to what the colour of pine would be. Whereas if you're doing a browner timber like this, maybe it's more important for you to have a glue line that matches this particular timber. So there are other things you need to consider. Having said that, the glue line, as I would have showed you before on this particular piece here, if you take a look in here, you will notice that the glue line is very minimal. So you're not really going to see it anyway, but it's important to note those points when talking about the various glues. So what we talked about before was our range of most common glues, Titebond 1, Titebond 2, Titebond 3, which comes in a variety of different sizes. What we have here are 4 specialty glues that we sell that are only available in the sizes that you see here. We have the big one here, which is Titebond Supreme. Then we have the polyurethane glue, the melamine glue, and the instant bond glue. Glue, adhesive, they're actually quite 2 different terminologies, and sometimes I will flip and flop between the 2, but when I talk about glue or adhesive, I'm really referring to the same application. Firstly, I just want to cover the Titebond Supreme. So this is actually the one that we use in our factory probably for 90% of the stuff we produce. When we're doing the like exterior products like post caps and stuff where we're wanting to glue together timber, we will use the Titebond 3. But for all of our other applications, for example, our handrails and anything that's being used for internal use, we will use this Titebond Supreme. It's particularly good with timbers like pine, Meranti, American oak, and Victorian ash. And as I said, we use this in our own factory. It's only available in this one size. It's really designed more for a larger manufacturer of products, as distinct from your small sort of handyman. So once again, 19 litre drum, Titebond Supreme. The small products here all have some very specific applications, and I'll run through this with you now. The first one is what we call the instant bond, and it's the instant bond medium. Basically, this is the equivalent of your, as the name would suggest, your method of joining something together instantly, and it's really good for small articles where you're wanting to create that super fast bond. The bond time on this is very quick. So you're talking it talks about here 7 seconds handling time and 5 seconds set time. I've actually used this myself at home for various applications, and it's a clear liquid. You pour it onto the 2 items you're wanting to do, join it together, hold it there, and then you can take apart and they've set. So it's a perfect purpose for some very quick gluing. The next 2 items, this one here, the melamine glue, is something that really is used more for a scenario where you're wanting to laminate something to a very porous surface. So for example, you've got some melamine or high pressure laminate, say used like in the kitchen industry or something along those lines, or in doors or those sorts of things, and you're wanting to mount it to a surface which is porous, for example, something like a particle board or MDF. This particular glue is really suited best for that application. And then finally, the polyurethane. Now this glue we've used in our factory on numerous occasions is what we call a foaming glue. And what we mean by that is visually it just looks like any normal glue, but when you actually pour it on the surface and press the 2 pieces together, once the oxygen gets into it and starts setting it off, it actually foams up and creates this sort of foam compound, if you want to call it. It's like a yellowy sort of colour. It's easy to remove. You just get a scraper and scrape it straight off, and you can sand it, no problems. But that's visually the way it looks when it's getting glued together. We've used this mainly in our factory when we're gluing together difficult timbers, and timbers like spotted gum, blackbutt. These types of Australian eucalypts have an issue where they have a lot of oil, which is part of the timber, and so traditional glues really struggle to penetrate into that hard surface. And so using things like Titebond 1 or 2 or Supreme, they will work, but they are not the best application. For those difficult to glue timbers, those really hard, dense timbers, we find the polyurethane glue is the best glue to use for that purpose. It's suitable for both exterior and interior application, but yeah, really suited to those difficult to glue timbers. Now, if you liked what you've seen in today's video, don't forget to hit the like button, and also feel free to drop me a comment for any questions you may have about what you've seen in the video. Also, please remember to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button below and turn that bell notification on so that you keep up to date with all of these great videos that we release. This is Wyatt Groff, signing off.